Hi, this is Elizabeth Offgrid, and today we're going to be talking about stealth living in a car in a city or a town. So since the Supreme Court came down with that case last year, it means that cities and towns and some counties are really going after people who live in vehicles. They're kind of going after the homeless problem by not actually helping people, but just making it illegal to exist. So what does that mean for any of us who either live full time in a vehicle, like I do, or who are just, you're just traveling or going to see friends or whatever, and you're sleeping in your car? How do you avoid this problem? Well, the first thing is to remember that they're really going after people in two different categories first. So right now they're going after tent encampments. So people who are homeless in the sense of living in a tent, and they're cleaning out the tent encampments and trashing all their stuff, pretty much so they have to kind of sleep on the street, is like literally on a sidewalk is kind of what they're doing, not really giving all of them housing. So that's one side of it. The other category of people they're going after are people living in RVs. So there's a lot of places where there's just areas that are really an encampment. It's just an encampment of RVs. Some of them aren't even running. And so instead of providing those people services, or if they're worried about trash, providing dumpsters, whatever, instead of doing that, they're just making it illegal to live in an RV. But how they're doing it mostly is that they don't make it illegal to live in an RV. In some places they do, but a lot of the places they're actually doing it as a parking regulation. So they're coming in and saying, you are not allowed to park any vehicle over a certain amount of feet high on the street for more than X number of hours. This applies to someone who just owns an RV and wants to park in front of their house, or you're just bringing your RV over from somewhere so you can load it or unload it. You only got 2 hours. It's actually a really short amount of time to get ready for your trip. As well as vans who have high tops. That also falls under that category. So how do you live in town if you're living in a vehicle with all these rules going on? Now, it's definitely true that right now in most places aren't coming after people living in a car. I'm not saying everywhere they're not. In some places, they actually have written it to be literally illegal to be sleeping or taking a nap in a car, or they have it where if you have pillows and blankets, it's illegal. You're supposed to have blankets for safety, but whatever. So they've come up with that. Or if you have cooking stuff in your car, pretty much if you have like a camping setup, they're going to assume you're living in the car. Obviously they can't tell unless they are already looking in your car because they pulled you over or something, but it's something that they can add. And I do think eventually they're going to start looking at people living in cars, because they're going to have cleaned up the tent encampments and cleaned up the RV things, really just moving those people into other places. And then who are they going to come after next? They have to keep coming after people, right? So what does that mean for us? So it's going to come down to being stealth, okay? You cannot look like you live in a car. Your car can't look like someone's living in it. So I'm going to share with you in this video what I do, the choices that I've made for my setup, and the choices that I've made differently over the last 2 years that I've been living in a vehicle full time. And then also the things I'm going to change, the things that actually need to be changed about my current vehicle to make it more stealth. So first thing is, what vehicle are you living in? I lived in the car that I already had, which was a Honda Civic, which is a sedan, right? Regular car. And now I'm living in a Subaru. This is a Subaru Forester, so it is an SUV. Then some people could also live in a coupe, which is a 2-door, also minivans. All these things look like regular cars. They don't look like a camper. They don't look like an RV. They don't look like a cargo van that someone has converted. They just look like regular cars, and they're inherently more stealth because of that, especially if you pick a car that a lot of people in your area have. So it just looks like one more of those cars. Second thing is, I tinted the back windows, which doesn't look tinted because I got ceramic tinting, which actually doesn't block the light from seeing out. When you look out, it only blocks it from going in. But I did not tint the front. Well, these are rolled down right now, but I did not tint the front. Even though in California you can tint some in front, I highly recommend not doing that. That does not look stealth. There are some people who do that in their cars, and I get that. But besides the fact that it's illegal in some states, and if you're traveling around, you're going to have problems, having the back windows tinted, especially in something like this vehicle, an SUV, looks normal because they come from the factory somewhat tinted. But having the fronts tinted, to the extent you're legally allowed to do, of course, because you can't tint the entire front window, even though people do that, that does not look like a regular car. The cops will look at that. The neighbors will look at that. What is happening? Why is that all blocked? You want to look just like every other car. That's the thing that is going to make you more stealth, is to blend in with everybody else. And if you have super crazy tinting and nobody else does, and doesn't look like another car just like that, it's going to look obvious. Next thing I do is I don't have stuff in line of sight. So what I mean is through the windows. So like You can see through the windows. I don't have stuff piled all the way up. You can see out the sides, right? All of this is open. And I don't always have it like that, okay? This is my city setup. This is not my traveling setup. When I'm going camping, when I'm doing cross-country road trips, when I'm going out into the middle of nowhere, I got stuff piled up, okay? I'm talking about in the city. I take all that stuff and put it in my storage unit, put it in my warehouse unit I have now. I do not have it in the vehicle when I am stealth. And so the idea is that this just looks like any other car. Someone is walking by and they can see through the cars. Even a car that has tint, you can see a teeniest bit of normalness because of that and not stuffiness. Then it looks just like one other car. And that's what you're looking for. How can I have my car just blend in? Fourth thing is I move my car every day. I never stay in one spot. I'm never living in that spot. I actually sleep on a spot on the street and I don't stay there. And this actually goes with the next one, which is I move my car before light and I get to my spot after dark. Not always, during the summer, it's actually hard to do that, to leave before this morning I did. I left, I think it was like 4 something in the morning. But generally speaking, I am only at my spot in the dark at night, after 10 p.m., before 6 a.m. And I think that's really important to make it so you're not being obvious for people who are going to work, coming home from work. Your car isn't there all the time. And while I do park generally in the same area, I don't literally park at the exact same spot every single night. I kind of have multiple spots that I use kind of in the same area. Now, there's a good argument for actually rotating, saying, okay, every 3 days, I'm going to go to a completely different area. I go back and forth about that. I actually think a way to be stealth is actually to park in a similar area, but you leave and come back every single day. The idea being that's what everybody else is doing. They're leaving and going to work and coming back. So you're kind of blending in. That's what you want to do, is you want to look like everybody else on the street. Another thing is this vehicle does not have solar panels on the roof. Most people don't have solar panels on the roof. Now, since this is a Subaru, I could totally have a rooftop box and blend in because a significant percentage of Subarus have rooftop boxes all the time. Now, if you have a sedan, if I had a Honda Civic and put a rooftop box, that does not look normal. That stands out. Another thing about the car standing out is that another part about this is I have no logos, no stickers. Sometimes you see people who have logos on their car that's like advertising their YouTube channel. I would never do that. First, you're advertising there's camera equipment in your car, so please steal it. I mean, that's just not a good idea. But then also, you're telling everybody, this is my lifestyle. I live in this vehicle and film it and stuff. And then they can go and look at your thing and see what you're doing, and then they know you're in there, okay? That ain't stealth. It's not stealth. Also, though, going with this, with a rooftop box on a car that doesn't normally have them, with solar panels on a car that you can see, with stickers and logos and stuff on a car, then the car is distinctive. You want your car to not be obvious that it's that same car coming back all the time. You're just another gray Honda Civic. You're another white Volkswagen, whatever. You want to be like every other car in that category, so they can't tell that it's your car specifically that's coming back over and over. 2 more things that I do not do. I do not cook on private property. So I'm in a parking lot right now. This is actually not private property, it's government property, but I'm in a parking lot. I don't cook. I don't get out my grill and fire up the propane stove in a Walmart parking lot, in a library parking lot. No, if I'm going to cook, I go to a park. And that's because there's places to cook there. It looks normal. The big issue I have with this is that if you first, the whole Walmart thing was someone actually cooked in a Walmart parking lot, put their stuff away, and their car catch fire, the neighbor's car catch fire, and it became a whole big giant thing a couple years ago. You don't want to contribute to those problems that make it so no people can't be in parking lots because you create a hazard. But also, it is not stealth. Sitting in your car for a while is kind of a normal thing that people do a lot. They're waiting for somebody, they're waiting for an appointment, they're waiting for their next Uber delivery thing that they're going to do, their gig work. That's a normal thing to be sitting in a car nowadays. However, getting out your propane stove and cooking an entire meal is not normal. And I don't do that in parking lots. I do that at parks. And there's parks everywhere for the most part, okay? There's no reason to not go to one. Sometimes it's harder in certain places because a lot of the parks, there's not good parking or they charge to get in or something like that. But in most places, there's plenty of parks to go to cook. And related to this is not keeping kind of junk outside your car, around your car. You know, I'll see people who are living in a vehicle who then have literal garbage sitting next to their car that they're going to take out. And I get why they don't want that in their car for the smell or whatever, but dude, that ain't stealth. You literally have garbage next to your car. That is obvious, and it's going to make the neighbors unhappy. Okay? That is not something I ever do. So one of the things that I didn't do right, I'm going to change. One of them is right here. See these white pillows? Okay. So they're white pillowcases. So this blue one, you can't see through the windows from the outside. The white ones, you can. Anything white in the car can be seen through the tint. But blue, gray, all that stuff, you can't. So I have brought with me, I got this one I already had, and I have a bunch of, I have lots of pillows back there that kind of barricade me in pillows, make it nice and comfy. So I have a lot of these, about 4 of these that I'm going to change out the pillowcases on to make it more stealth. So that's my number one thing. So you can't see in because everything is dark colored and it just looks like a blob. You can't really tell what's in there. Second thing I'm planning to do is to keep the front seat clear. So I'm gonna show you. Okay, big pile of stuff, all right? So throughout me doing this, living in a vehicle the last 2 years, a lot of times I've had just all kinds of stuff here in the passenger seat. Now, for my Honda Civic, I actually took out the passenger seats, and that's how I made a bed, I made a platform. So that wasn't stealth. Anyone could look in and tell that it wasn't a normal car. This looks normal, right? And the thing is, right now is a lot of stuff here. It's actually literally just bags of things. It's because it's not organized very well, and I plan to fix that the next day or two. And that's actually one of the things I want to get back to, is having the front seat just has one bag and my purse, and then, like, you know, a box of tissues or some normal thing that you would have in a car. Nothing else in here. It doesn't look like a pack rat has to like put all this stuff here. There's a couple of things nice about it. One, it looks more normal when someone looks in that window, especially since it's not tinted. And the second thing that's good about it is you actually can give someone a ride, which is really nice. Also, it is helpful to have a place to put other things that you don't want to put on your bed. You know what I mean? When you come in, because there's not a ton of stuff here. You can have stuff, you can put things down where your feet go. And if it's, you know, dirty stuff or whatever, you have one more place to put things. But the main thing is keeping this clear makes it look like a regular car. The next thing is, what I'm actually considering is kind of a little bit different setup with covering my windows. So let me show you the problem. So let me get one of my window covers. So if you look at these window covers, okay, this side is what I put up if it's sunny and I'm trying to block the sun, right? And these are from WeatherTech. They're allegedly laser measured to be fit perfect. They do not fit perfect, okay? They're very close though. And they delivered them fast, which is what I needed. See this black? It is very unfortunate because it is shiny, okay? So that means you can see it through this. Also, they put these WeatherTech labels on it, and these are like they're stickers, okay? And it's white, and you can totally read that through the window, through the tint. So that's a problem even in the back, but in the front, it's very obvious on these windows at night, especially if you park and there's any light outside, it reflects off those window coverings. So one thing that I plan to do is, first, I'm going to make new window coverings that are matte finish. I'm planning to sew them and stuff, and that's like a whole project that I'm not doing right this second, but I plan to make new window coverings that will go in the back. Now, the thing is, you might say, well, why don't you just cover these with like matte black tape? I might try that, but the thing is, if these are any more heavy, they will fall out. They kind of just push in the window. They're not magnets or anything. So if they're any heavier, I don't think they're going to stay. They half the time don't stay anyway. You can see that one out there fell out. That one out there over there is in the little teeny corner windows, because they're always just falling out all the time. It makes me crazy. What I'm planning to do in the front is to not cover these two windows at night. So my plan is, I always cover the front. That actually looks very normal to have the front up. I usually use the reflective facing out. Looks very normal, and most people do. I cover the back windows, but it's tinted. You can't really see it that well. And once I get new window coverings, you definitely won't see it at all. But then here, covering these front windows looks strange. Okay, does not look stealth. And if I have the front seat clear, okay, and the only thing up here is my bag and my purse, and I can just bring it back there with me, All I need is something to go here, right? And I'm sure you've seen this with people with vans and cars and minivans and things, putting some kind of curtain here. So what I'm planning to do is get blackout curtain. Instead of buying fabric, I'm just going to buy a blackout curtain and then modify it, because that's actually way more cheap than buying all the different layers of fabric that you need to do to make blackout, because you have to have like multiple layers, right? So I'm planning to buy a blackout curtain and then string it up here, and then have that be here behind these seats. So when you look in, you just see kind of black, and at night it will just look black. It'll just look like nothing. If someone really knows what's going on, they'll be able to figure it out, but they're going to figure that out anyway. You're looking for the casual person who's not really paying attention, and it looks normal. They just keep walking, and that's what you want. So that's my idea. I won't cover here. I'll take my purse and my bag and bring it back there with me. So anything up here is not worth, stealing or looking sketchy or anything like that. And then I'll close these curtains and I'll be in my nice little space. I think that will work out really well, but that'll be an experiment. And those two things are projects that I'm not probably going to do right now, but that is what I'm planning to do for the future. So if you live in a vehicle, or you're planning to live in a vehicle, what changes are you doing to your setup to make it more stealth, both just generally and in light of the new laws that are being passed everywhere to kind of go after everybody who is living in a car? Again, this is Elizabeth Off Grid. I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.